All right. So it is 5:20. I think we've had a few folks trickle in. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm calling from the territory of the Kwangan peoples, now known as the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. They have stewarded these lands for generations, and they continue to care for these lands today. And so I give thanks for the work they have done and the work that they are doing. And I hope that we can, that I can be a good ally in the work that they do. I would invite members who are on the chat or on the call today to use the chat function. They can introduce themselves and identify what lands they're calling in from. My name is James Coccola. I am the chair of the board and have been for the last 3 years. I'll be starting my 6th and final year as a member of this board after this AGM. And I want to just start by also asking that you forgive me for any coughs or sniffles. I'm recovering from a cold, hopefully just the cold. There is, at this point, 33 people on this call. Our quorum is 10 people, so we have enough members present to begin the meeting. A few housekeeping items. I know most folks are pretty proficient with Zoom at this point, but the way this meeting will go, as we go through the agenda, we'll use a chat function to drop files. So you'll see things like the agenda, minutes, and the annual report go into the chat. Whenever we are moving to a motion on something, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to write move second in the chat. And then after, if there's no discussion, we'll go to a vote, and a vote will pop up on your screen and give you the opportunity to cast a vote. You'll be able to vote in favor, opposed, or abstain. To allow everybody to vote, we'll keep it up for 45 seconds. I know that there are some people who are probably sharing a screen. It's one of the limitations of this system, only one vote per device. If there is anybody who is sharing a screen, or sharing a device, feel free to send me a message and let me know. If there are any votes that are very, very close, I may send you a message and ask for your vote. But hopefully it will not be an issue today. Once the poll is finished, results will show on the screen. It might take a moment for all the stuff to tally, and once it's done, we'll let you know if you'll be able to see if the motion is passed or not. There are no special resolutions at this meeting, so all of the votes are simply a majority vote. All of us were muted when we came into this meeting. It's to help kind of stop folks from talking over each other. You have the power to unmute if you need, but we'd ask that you use the reactions button to raise your hand if you would like to speak, and I will call upon you. If you can't find that, you can simply write in the chat, "I'd like to speak," and I will call upon you to do so. So at this point, I think we're ready to move into everything. Can we get the agenda popped into the chat for us? So the agenda has been made available on the website. It's also on the screen here for us. So we'll have the approval of the agenda in a second, minutes, and then we'll move through a number of reports from myself, the staff, and the treasurer. And then the nominations committee will give a report, as well as the elections and the volunteer awards. May I have a motion to approve the agenda in the chat? So if somebody can write moved, and then I look for a seconder. So Erica has moved the motion, and Jordan has seconded. Is there any discussion on the agenda that we have before us tonight? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. So if I could have the poll presented. The poll should have popped up. You have 45 seconds to answer. I know that may feel like a long time, but we want to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to vote. Okay, so we've passed the agenda. That's excellent. So now we're going to go on to the approval of the minutes. So you'll see the minutes put into the chat. Hopefully. There they are. Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Somebody want to write moved into the chat and then seconded? Darius has moved. Minutes. I know the minutes aren't the most exciting thing, but hopefully we can pass them if somebody wants to second those. Thank you, Erica. So the minutes are there for you. This was the, oh, sorry, hold on. Minutes are there for you. This is from the AGM held on September 23rd, 2021. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, let's go to a vote. Okay, so the minutes have been adopted. Okay, we'll now move on to the report from the chair. So I'd like to start by thanking everyone in attendance. Sierra Club is truly a grassroots organization powered by its members. Every hour volunteered and every dollar donated helps us collectively achieve the goals that we've set out in our strategic plan. I wanted to thank the staff for their hard work over the year. You're going to hear a lot about the tremendous work they've been doing. It's quite incredible to watch, and this organization can move mountains. And needless to say, I've been very proud of the work this organization has been able to do, and some of the incredible partnerships that's been able to foster. I want to thank the board for the work as well. There are many people reoffering for election tonight that have spent 2 years on this board, but because of the ongoing pandemic, have not actually been able to meet in person. So there's lots of folks who have had many Zoom calls, but never actually seen each other. Being on a board takes a high level of commitment to the cause, and doing so in a pandemic is just even harder. So I want to thank them so much for the work they've been able to do over the last year. I also want to give a special thanks to those who are not putting forward their name again, with a special thanks to Nadia, who is currently taking our minutes. We're also experiencing a transition in some of the senior roles on the board, with Darius Mays, who's our current treasurer, and I hope I'm not ruining anything here, Darius, who will be stepping back from the role as treasurer, and I will also be stepping back from the role as chair. We'll both be continuing on for a remainder of our term. The board continues with its work to improve oversight and governance of the organization. In the works is a revamped personnel and financial policies, as well as some additional oversight tools. I want to thank the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee for the work they've done over the last year to help improve the organization's policies. Their work has borne fruit, and we're really excited for what they've been able to achieve. So I'll leave my report there. And then I will pass this over to our executive director, Hannah, for her report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and so glad that all of you were able to attend this meeting and share in our business tonight, as well as our updates. So I'm Hannah Askew. I'm the executive director. My ancestors come from England and Scotland. I'm calling in from Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory today. And I wanted to share with you something that I learned about my own name, which comes from the paternal side of my family in the last couple of years. And I learned that my last name, Askew, comes from an old Norse word, which means oakwood, and it actually refers to an oakwood that was located in the northern part of Yorkshire in England, where a lot of my family on my father's side come from. And during the Middle Ages, when people started moving away from the places that they were born, they often adopted the name of the place that they came from as their last name. And so that's where my family last name comes from, is that particular oakwood in the northern part of Yorkshire. And I think about that sometimes when I'm feeling not grounded or disconnected and or overwhelmed by all of the things that are coming at me. Thinking of that connection to those old trees gives me a sense of strength. So I wanted to share that with you. This is a really exciting week for us to have our AGM and to be able to update you. We have been in court this week with being represented by Eco-Justice, which is a public interest environmental law organization. And we, as many of you may be aware, and if we could just go to the next slide, as many of you might be aware, we filed a lawsuit against the BC government back in March for failing to be accountable to their own climate accountability legislation, which requires them to release transparent data on plans and tracking progress towards some of our stated climate goals at different dates. So in the legislation, they're required to report against progress towards climate goals for 2025, 2030, 2040, and 2050. And they're also required to do that, break that down by sector. So I think some of the sector areas include oil and gas and transportation, agriculture, housing. And so while some of the data was released, there are big gaps in the reporting. And so because of that, we're really not able to get a clear picture as a province as to how we are tracking towards our climate commitments. And this is a huge problem because, as many of you are likely aware, governments in jurisdictions all around the world are not honoring their climate commitments and are exceeding the climate targets that they've set. And unfortunately, BC and Canada are no exception to this. So this was a lawsuit that we really thought a lot about taking on before we made the decision. And we actually did, we had some research done through West Coast Environmental Law in advance to look at the impact of climate litigation in different jurisdictions. And what we found is that it's one of the most effective tools that citizens have and organizations like ours to hold governments to account for meeting climate commitments. And so we made that decision. And I really wanted to thank all of you who are members of Sierra Club BC, and I know many of you have contributed enormous amounts in different ways over the years. And I'm really proud that we took this lawsuit on. It did cause some controversy. We did have some pushback, some threats to our funding. We did get shut out of some government meetings and updates as a result of that decision. And I know from our colleagues and friends at Eco-Justice who are representing us that a lot of other groups were really afraid to take this lawsuit on, and we stepped up as an organization, and that's all of you as members and supporters and people that have contributed to the organization. And so I feel like this lawsuit really represents the spirit of our organization. We had an incredible response to the lawsuit in court the last 2 days. We've had over 200 independent public news stories come out about the lawsuit, most of it very favorable. There's a few links from some of the major newspapers that Aurora has put in the chat for all of you. We're getting international coverage. I have friends from Europe that have been reaching out to say that they've been reading about the lawsuit. I just got off the lawyer a few minutes before our meeting started. One of the Eco-Justice lawyers who let me know that the submissions wrapped up today. So it was the final day of the hearing. And apparently it went very well in court today. And the judge commented at the end on the deep importance and urgency of this case. So we'll be really looking forward to getting the ruling, which should be out soon. But I think regardless of what the finding is from the court, that it's something we can be really proud of because of the public conversation that we started around this, and the contribution that we've made and hopefully inspired other people as well to hold their governments to account in meeting the commitments that they've made and inviting them into stepping into more responsibility for honoring climate commitments and really addressing seriously the climate crisis that we're all facing right now. So wanted to give you that update. It went really, really well, and we'll be reporting back on the ruling as soon as it's available. And in the meantime, you can read a lot of analysis and coverage. I'm so impressed by our communications team and the communications team at EcoJustice that did such a fantastic job of briefing reporters on what's a fairly complex topic. But if you do look at the coverage, I think you'll see how well the reporters were able to grasp and how really, I think, supportive in general they are of the lawsuit, which is great to see from the mainstream media, because we haven't always gotten that kind of climate coverage. So I wanted to share that update. And then moving on, so to the next slide, I just wanted to do, the campaigns and education team are mainly going to provide the update, but I wanted to remind everyone here of the 2 strategic goals that we released in our 2020 strategic plan. And so I'm just going to refresh everyone's memory on the goals, because then you'll be able to see as the updates happen from the different educators and campaigners how that fits into these broader goals. So what our strategic goals are is that within the context of respecting Indigenous jurisdiction, we will support and enable leadership for climate action and resilience with an emphasis on communities that are most impacted by the ecological crisis, and that we will protect ecosystems and nurture their abundance to ensure a viable future for all. And both our education team and our campaigns team are doing extraordinary work towards these goals. I really wanted to just lift my hands up to all of them. Our education team this year has done some really incredible transformative work. A lot of our curriculum has been revamped and really centers Indigenous knowledge. And as a result of that, we've been able to make partnerships with a lot of new schools and children and families. And so our education lead will speak to that more when we get to that. We've also formed partnerships to support adult learners as well, and inviting them to see differently when they go into the forest, and to begin to understand their relationship and obligations to nature and to the non-human world in a different way. So our cultural voice, Charlene George, has done some really incredible work forming partnerships both at UBC with their Sustainable Scholars program, as well as with the Emily Carr Art Institute. So yeah, really exciting work in education, particularly around that goal 2 and our relationship with ecosystems. And then in goal 1, we have begun working with many different kinds of groups that we haven't worked with extensively in the past. So when we issued our strategic plan, one of the things that we realized in 2020 was that given the scale of the crisis that we're facing, we cannot afford to just work with people who already identify as environmentalists, that it was really critical that we partner with people in all kinds of diverse areas of society to draw on their knowledge and leadership and skills, and so that they could work within their own networks and communities to bring their gifts to addressing the climate and ecological crisis that we faced. So our lead organizer, Flossie, will speak more to that, but we have done some really beautiful work with artists, with faith leaders from really diverse traditions, and many other groups as well. So I am going to leave it at there for now, and I'm going to pass it over to our new Director of Campaigns, Shelley Luce, who we're really thrilled to have joined us a few months ago. And yeah, she will begin to kind of delve more into some of the substantive work that's happening. So thank you, everyone. I'm really grateful to you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Hannah, and thanks everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Shelley Luce, and I joined Sierra Club, as Hannah said, as campaign director in May of this year. And I come to Sierra Club from a couple of decades of work in nonprofit environmental groups in California, where I first went to pursue my PhD in environmental science and engineering at UCLA. And I really loved my work there on water and forest conservation, and I'm really happy to be back here in Canada. And it's an incredible time for me to be joining Sierra Club. We are so well positioned to make the needed changes, and it's the 50 years of grassroots action and the very sophisticated policy and technical work. And it's also the more recent work of Sierra Club that Hannah mentioned, the work that's being done to evolve away from a colonial history into a truly inclusive organization, one that invites everyone to learn through an Indigenous lens. And this is nothing short of transformative, and it's a really big reason that I wanted to be here. So Hannah talked about our two overarching strategic goals, and I'm going to talk more about goal 2. Goal 2 is to protect and nurture ecosystems to ensure a viable future. Can you put on the next slide for me, please? One tactic for this is implementing the vision of 30 by 30, 30% of our land protected by the year 2030. This is a complex undertaking, and our approach is two-pronged. Can you go to the next slide, please? We work with government to hold them to their commitments. And one more, I should have gone a couple slides earlier. There we go. We work with government to hold them to their commitments, and we invite partnerships with communities that are interested in creating protected and conserved areas. Holding government to their commitments is never-ending work. Hannah talked about the lawsuit. Another way we do it is through public-facing campaigns, such as our Old Growth report card. We have seen great public and media response to this. The government does take note when they get a bad grade, and the grades are specific to the recommendations in the Old Growth Strategic Review that the province themselves had done. So it's extremely important that we continue to apply pressure here. Next slide, please. The second prong of this work for old growth protection is providing technical expertise and support where there is community interest in creating protected areas. For example, Indigenous Protected and Conserved Areas, or IPCAs. And I'm very excited about the potential here, working with our organizing team. And this work, I think, is really going to take off in the next 12 months. And 3 year, we have a 3-year timeline for this right now. Of course, we continue our work on the ground. Next slide, please, in the forest. You may have seen some of the wonderful storytelling that came out of this summer's trip by some of our staff to the interior of British Columbia. And in that storytelling that we share, we really, I feel, are able to connect all kinds of people throughout the province with the many, many values of intact forest ecosystems, and really help people feel a relationship to the forest beings that we depend on. So I think we're doing a really great job of that type of storytelling. Really excited about it. And the last thing I will mention tonight, another slide, please. We have another picture of some of our storytelling, yes. And then the last thing I want to mention tonight is our work to protect species at risk of extinction. These animals and plants and other beings are not protected on provincial or private lands, and most land in BC is currently designated provincial land. So we are working on a Biodiversity Protection Act that will protect critical habitat for species at risk. There's a lot more to come here, including a parallel effort led by our indigenous voice, Shar George, called Why Are Our Relatives Leaving? And we are just beginning this work together. So look for more information on this throughout the year, and please reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts to share on our campaign's work. Now I will pass the mic to our lead organizer, Flossie Baker. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shelley. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to speak briefly a bit about our local leaders strategy. So in striving to meet our goal of supporting hundreds of local leaders over the next few years, we are working at several different levels. First, we've been putting in so much effort at building deeper relationships with our supporters and our members and empowering them to take action that feels really meaningful to them and sustaining to them. And so a big part of that has been developing our Invite to Action portal. If you haven't joined it, please follow that link that just got put in the chat. But this online portal invites people to join Sierra Club and to share their gifts and to just do what they enjoy. So whether they identify as an artist or a nurturer, that's anyone who is helping to raise young ones, or an ambassador, that's people who enjoy being kind of spokespeople within their circles. There are now almost 500 people who are part of Invite to Action. And we've been having a lot of fun trialing how best to engage them over the last few months. The most flourishing group is the artist group, and we've had some amazing art workshops over the course of the year. Just a few weeks ago, we held a ceramics class where we all got to try and make ceramic herrings that are going to be part of a huge art installation next year that's drawing attention to the needs of the southern resident orchids. And another new really exciting initiative, next slide please, has been launching Stewardship School. And Stewardship School is a series of walks led by Sierra Club's cultural guide, Charlene George. And these walks have been a really amazing opportunity for people to take some time out of their busy lives and to pause and to learn how to see the forest in a different way. And so participants have learned so much about the relationships between the different beings in the forest and about the idea of what true reciprocity looks like. About 80 people who three, not just offering it to our members, but also to key sectoral leaders. And then finally, we've been working at building out our faith sector work this last year. So in the spring, we held an event for multi-faith leaders to come together and gather on stories from our own traditions that might lead their communities to deeper, more meaningful action at this time. And so since then, we've been nurturing some of those key faith relationships that got developed then. And bridging all of this work is the theme of inviting and supporting people into respectful relationships with the more than human world. And we're doing this at a neighborhood level in the ways that I've just said, and we're doing it in the policy level. Just today, I think it was, our recent Bear Den campaign led to a members' bill being put forward for its first reading. And someone who is really deepening this work of inviting and supporting more respectful relationships is my colleague, Lizzie Thorne, and I'm going to pass it to her next. Thank you so much.
It's Rachel, everyone. My Huamos net is Liamtanot, and my English name I go by is Lizzie, and my family and ancestors come from the Musqueam, Cowichan, Suk, and Penelakut territories, and I'm coming today from the Lekwungen territories here in Colwood. I'd just like to share that I have been able to work alongside a lot of the beautiful years of growth and transformation with Sierra Club since 2019 as a contractor. Currently, I am working as a climate engagement facilitator from an Indigenous lens and being able to help bridge relationships, create and move into a direction of a future of having to see things differently from an outward and inward perspective. A lot of the work that has been completed throughout the years keeps growing and growing, and being able to work into why the relatives are leaving, and the co-facilitation work that took place around the strategic plan had a lot to do with transformational leadership and being able to dissect and also grow our lenses to see how we can be action orientated in a very busy world. So right now I am working on looking and engaging with Indigenous communities, as well as working with staff to continue on in this direction. And I'd just like to thank everyone for their time today. Hi, Chika.
I
Hi,
think
everyone.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. My name is Haya, and I'm the Education Program Lead at Sierra Club BC. Today, I'm calling in from Lekwungen territory. It's really important for me to acknowledge out loud the place where I am, especially because a place-based approach is really at the center of a lot of the work that we do in education. And so to share a little bit about education, our role is to provide rich, experiential, and hands-on learning opportunities across the province to learners of all ages, but primarily for children and youth. We use a place-based approach to invite learners outside and into a relationship with all beings. Using a place-based approach also means that we're working with Indigenous collaborators to respectfully weave in the local knowledges into the workshops and the materials that we're offering. From September 2021 to August 2022, our education team delivered in-person and online workshops for school classes, homeschool groups, educators, and other learning communities across BC. This right here is what our current offering of workshops looks like. We have nature and gathering places for kindergarten. We've got life cycles and ecosystems, exploring our reciprocal relationships for grade 1 and grade 2. We have plants and people making connections for grade 3 to 5. We have climate and place, community-based thinking for grade 6 to 8. And we have place-based learning, reimagining our relationships with other beings for high school age. For the professional development opportunities that are available to formal and non-formal educators, we essentially offer a modified version of the place-based learning workshop. And this year, I'm happy to share that we had more than 6,000 learners who participated in workshops with us, which is pretty awesome. So with COVID being in its third year, we continued to adjust the program delivery based on the evolving public health guidelines and health protocols of each of the learning communities that we work with. And so mindful of this, there were still certain limitations around travel for our facilitators of learning. So over the past year, our in-person program delivery remained primarily localized within the Greater Vancouver area and the mid to northern Vancouver Island area. But we also did some work in the Capital Regional District and also in the Cathet Regional District. And so for communities that are located in more of the remote areas of BC, online versions of our workshops, our open access environmental education curriculums, and education webinars continued to be available to them. Speaking of our education webinars, we continued our collaboration with Dr. Julius Chitany by offering more Learn to Draw webinars. This year, the drawing lessons and intercultural conversations included the following beings. We had marbled murrelet, little brown bat, giant Pacific octopus, northern red-legged frog, ghost pipe, and tube worms, the Greenland shark, and the rufous hummingbird. For these webinars, our education team also developed supporting curriculums, which are available to folks on our website and in our education e-news. These curriculums were informed by a lens of Senchothan speaking people and Coccola speaking people. And so just in the webinars, and this is a bit of like a conservative number, but we had at least 5,600 participants that took part, which is
also really exciting. Lots of engagement, yeah, coming through education. We can go on to the next slide. So a lot of the work that education has done wouldn't have been possible without the numerous collaborators who shared their time, their knowledge, and their unique gifts with us. And so I want to make sure that they're acknowledged here today. And so we would like to share a lot of gratitude to the WSANIC Leadership Council, the Esquimalt Nation Homework Club, Insight Global Education, the Fraser Valley Regional Library, UBC, especially for the Consider How We Paddle Together work that we did with the Sustainable Scholar Program, which offers a process guide on how we can engage and learn from diverse communities around the climate crisis. We also want to thank the Classrooms to Communities group, the Stewards of Chianu Society, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation School, Dr. Julius Chitney, the Tla'amin Language Program and faculty at School District 47, the Sierra Club BC engagement team with the Stewardship School and Learning to See Differently walks, all of the learners that we had the opportunity to work with this year, and also all of the members of the Sierra Club BC education team. For education, this year has been a really busy year, and there's been lots of transformation and learning, collaboration, and also some new beginnings. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share some of this with you all today, and I'm looking forward to another year of this work. But for now, I'll turn the meeting over to Darius from our board, who's going to share the Treasurer's report.
Thank you so much, Haya. My name is Darius Mays. I'm treasurer for the board of directors, and I'm calling from the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. We've got the appointment of the auditor and a review of the financials. So we'll start just with the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021. These are available on the website, and they're also available in the chat. I'd like to make a few brief comments on the finances before we put forward a motion to approve them. It's been, another interesting year for Sierra Club BC. Again, coming out of COVID, being able to do more in-person events, getting to connect with donors in person. And so just a big thank you to all the team that's helped to write the grants and to fundraise for the various programs and connect with donors, including many of you. And that's given a fairly healthy picture for the organization. We ended up with a surplus. We have a surplus and a growing balance sheet that is going to give us a lot of capacity to explore new programs, increase the capacity of the organization. And I think that's a big part of the success of the organization, under the leadership of Hannah and the many others in their team, including the finance team. There's been improvements to their various systems and in terms of reporting and processes, so things are more efficient and can be easily tracked. And so as the organization grows, as it's becoming more sophisticated, and the last couple of years have been kind of catching up to the growth of the last couple of years. And from my perspective as treasurer, it's been great to work with the team and to see these updates that are really making the organization just that much more flexible and more effective, and able to take on these increased challenges and opportunities. Before I move to the motion, is there any comments on the financial statements or on my report that folks would like to ask? Seeing none, and if you do, again, feel free to raise your hand and we can come back to it. But I'd like to. Question there. Oh, thank you, Roberta. So I'd like to move for approval of the audited financial statements. May I have a motion to approve the statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021? All right. Jordan Waters, Patty, is that a question, or is that a motion to move?
It was the motion. It's okay, you found someone.
Thank you, Patty. Would you be willing to second the motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, and we'll have a poll pop up. So all those in favor, please respond. And that'll be up for about 45 minutes. Sorry, 45 minutes, 45 seconds, sorry. All right, and yeah, let that go. All right. Thank you to all who voted in favor or abstained. So the next item on our agenda is the appointment of the auditors. So I'd like to recommend that KPMG be the auditors for the Sierra Club of BC Foundation for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. May I have a motion to approve KPMG as the Foundation's auditors?
I have a question first.
Oh, certainly, please.
Is that the same company we've been working with for the past while? I know there was a conversation to consider moving to a different supplier.
Thank you, Shar. Yes, we have been, so KPMG has supported us for many years as our auditors. We have been obviously very happy with their work, but as part from our perspective, we want to go to take a look at what our options are, and continue to make sure that both that we're serving the best interest of the organization, but also that perhaps there's an opportunity for fresh eyes. But at this time, for the coming year, we'd like to move forward with KPMG. Thank you for that question, Nina. So okay, thank you again, Erica, for moving, and if I could get a seconder. Thank you, Jordan. So all those in favor, please vote in the poll. And if you wish to, if you are opposed or wish to abstain, please also take an opportunity to note that. All right, the motion passes. So thank you all for your support. Very much appreciated. I will pass it over to James.
Great. Thank you so much, Darius, and thank you to all the staff for their presentations. I would like to give the report of the nominations committee now. The nominations committee has started meeting earlier this year and conducted a search for new candidates for the board of directors. We did our best to try to balance geographic location, gender, experience, and other skills that the board might need. We had an open application process that was posted on our website, social media, Charity Village, and a number of other places. We interviewed several individuals. We have a number of folks whose terms are expiring and are putting their names forward. So there are 5 people who are putting their names forward again. And we are recommending 3 new directors that we identified through the search process. So we have a total of 8 directors that are being recommended by the nominations committee. This is your slate of candidates that we're recommending today. Those standing for the board are Eric Kapinski, Roberta, and I'm sorry, Roberta, for not saying last name right. I'm going to get you to tell me how to say it next time. Roberta, Kevin Barlow.
Coalition,
Sorry?
like a coalition government.
There we go. Thank you. Alex Favell, Dakota McGovern, Jordan Waters, Rob Gillizo, and Susan Kim. So this is the slate that we're nominating today. Are there any questions that people would like to ask? So seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the recommendations for directors. And Patty, is that a motion to move it for us?
Yes.
Thank you, Patty. Is there somebody who can second it? Would anybody like to second the motion? Thank you, Robin. Okay. The motion is before you to approve the election of the directors. Okay, so that motion does pass. And now I'm going to pass the meeting over to Flossie for the volunteer awards.
Okay, everyone. I think I get to do the most fun part of the meeting, and that is to nominate some wonderful people and organizations. So first of all, I'd like to nominate the Rosemary Fox Conservation Achievement Award, which recognizes the significant achievement in protecting habitat and life needs of species. And this year, we wish to acknowledge the persistence and the determination of a very special group of citizens led by an avid birder, Dr. Royanne Petrel, who I think is on tonight. And this group have worked so tirelessly during the past 2 bird nesting seasons to monitor and document forest-dependent species at risk in irreplaceable old-growth forests on Vancouver Island. They call themselves the Old Growth Birders and Bioblitzers, and this group has committed countless hours, both day and night, in all kinds of weather, carrying out monitoring efforts along steep slopes, high elevations, and in the middle of heat domes, all to echo and amplify the calls of forest beings whose presence on the land is a gift and deserves all of our protection. Old Growth Birders and Bioblitzers, thank you so much for your tireless work, and everyone please give them some emoji love with the congratulations emoji if you can. And secondly, I'd like to present the Geraldine Irving Award and the Jack Hemphill Award together. These 2 awards are about connecting individuals to wildlife and laying the groundwork for organizational development. And this year we wish to nominate Laura Kozak for the Geraldine Irving Award and Jean Chisholm for the Jack Hemphill Award. Both Jean and Laura are instructors at the Emily Carr School of Art and Design. And together they have co-taught a brand new course. It's called the Place-Based Field School. And it's a brilliantly unique program that helps to root students more in the place that they live and helps facilitate design for a better world. And Jean and Laura took a chance on us this year by being our first Stewardship School partner. And they have gone above and beyond to support and facilitate their students' ability to have reciprocal relationships with the communities that they are a part of. Jean and Laura's unwavering support and openness and patience has allowed us to pilot our first ever Stewardship School, through which we learnt and grew so much. Their students left their program with more tools to facilitate design that enables the flourishing relationships between humans and the more than humans. And they have nurtured their students so deeply and picked up the teachings and obligations from Stewardship School so wholeheartedly. And they have truly been a ripple of change in their own institution and their community. Jean and Laura, thank you so much for all your work over this last year. And finally, I wish to present the Yagudang Award. Yagudang means respect for all beings in the Haida language, and this inaugural Climate Justice Award recognizes individuals whose work lies at the intersection of climate justice and transformative justice. It is extremely fitting then that the Stewards of Chianu is the recipient of this Climate Justice Award. They have worked incredibly hard to remove invasive species like Scotch broom from their territory and reintroduce many native plants which have much cultural and medicinal significance to the Chianu people. Through their clearing, they have created so much space for endangered beings to return, and they have taught us so much about caring by growing food locally and sharing it throughout the whole community. They have shown us what humble and transformative action looks like, and how much change can happen through working across the generations to make sure that traditional practices are passed on. To us, they truly model reconciliation. And I think Christina and Evelyn are here tonight. Thank you, Christina and Evelyn, for all the work that you do. And to all our local Leader Award nominees, a small card and gift will be coming your way in the mail as a token of our appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to everybody for their awards. I also want to thank everybody who is standing again for the board or is joining the board this term. In closing, I'd like to draw your attention to the annual report, which will be dropped into the chat hopefully in a moment. It highlights some of the key facts and figures for you. It'll also be posted on our website following today's meeting. Thank you to the staff and amazing volunteers for the work you do every day, and especially for the tech work you did to set up this meeting today. I know a lot goes into preparing something like this. Thank you again to the outgoing board members, and thank you for your attention tonight. At this point, we are now at the end of our agenda, and so I am prepared to call this meeting to a close. So thank you once again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening.